Looked finished, didn't I? Well, I wasn't. So, truth is, you don't think the towers were brought down by planes cutting massive holes into the side of them, and the fires causing the steel to weaken, so what do you think actually brought them down?
I think it was brought down with explosive charges and nanothermite.
Nanothermite.
Thermite. Thermite's an incendiary. It doesn't
It's an
explode.
incendiary. It's nanothermite that was found in the dust.
Yes, thermite. But what is thermite? For those of you who don't know, thermite is a mixture of a metal powder and a metal oxide that can undergo an exothermic oxidation reduction reaction. I made thermite out of a 2-to-1 mixture of iron oxide and aluminium to destroy my Xbox that dared to 3-red ring me. And unfortunately I bought a dodgy blowtorch to light the magnesium fuse and, well, yeah. Now this reaction is extremely dangerous and is really hard to control because it has its own oxygen source, so please do not try to recreate this at home. And in case you're interested, I used 1.5 kilograms of thermite to try and destroy this 4 kilogram Xbox, and it didn't do a very good job. In fact, it was pretty much in one piece at the end.
Oh, fuck! That really hurt! Thermite is kind of it's not very explosive. It can burn through steel, but you need a hell of a lot of it to actually do it. So. The only other way.
Regular thermite, you do. In fact, if you go to the least level of thermite, what you got is a sparkler.
Notice how he was starting to change the conversation. I found that day that all truthers do this, and that's why I'm having to make such harsh cuts in these videos. Okay, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but sparklers are awesome. And he's right, they are made from, among other things, a metal oxide and a metal powder as fuel. Now remember how I said the thermite reaction has its own oxygen source? Yep, fire underwater. Awesome. Don't try this at home. But where did truthers get the idea that thermite brought down these buildings?
There is a published peer-reviewed paper by Dr. Stephen Jones and Myles. What they did was they took 5 samples of the dust that blanketed Lower Manhattan, and they studied it under microscope, a lot of technical stuff, but they found unexploded nanothermite material in the dust. They reported on this. It's been peer-reviewed by other scientists. It's not been disputed.
Okay, so let's have a look at this peer-reviewed paper by Dr. Stephen Jones. It was named Activated Thermitic Material Discovered in the Dust from the 9/11 World Trade Center Catastrophe. So, let's start at the beginning. Where did Steve get these dust samples from? Sample 1 was the earliest collected sample and it came from Mr. Frank de Lacy, whatever, who was on the Manhattan side of the Brooklyn Bridge about the time the second tower, the North Tower, fell to the ground. He saw the tower fall and was enveloped by the resulting thick dust, which settled through the area. He swept a handful of the dust from a rail on a pedestrian walkway near the end of the bridge about 10 minutes after the fall of the North Tower. He then went to go visit his friend Mr. Wait, I'm sorry, why is this information important? This is meant to be a scientific paper and it's given us the backstory of the dust? Why can't I just say the time and location this dust was collected? And when did these dust samples get given to Jones? 2007? This guy kept it for 6 years? Okay, what about sample 2? On the morning of September 12, 2001, Mr. Stephen White of New York City entered his room in his apartment on the 8th floor of the... Really? Backstory again? I'm looking forward to the part where Jones discusses in great length the gap year the dust took before finally making it to Mr. Stephen White's room. Sample 3 was collected from an apartment building and submitted in 2008. The last sample was from a Miss Jeanette McKinley? Whatever. Who the paper felt it necessary to talk about her leaving her flat and then returning a week later to collect the dust sample for a possible art piece in the future. Why is this important? But this must have been fantastic dust because Jones travelled to her new home in California to collect the sample himself. I really don't know why these stories are important, but apparently they are, because there was a 5th sample, but because the guy didn't want to give his name, they didn't look into it. What? I just don't understand this. And you know what? I'm not even sure if this information is correct. After watching DPR Jones's video named 9/11 was an insect job, and checking the original videos myself, I think these dates and stories are kind of incorrect.
I don't know much more about it. You say you've read the paper and you're not impressed by it.
I'm not, sorry, no.
That's okay, that's okay.
So what did the journal actually say? Well, in these dust samples actually found red-grey chips that apparently have the same makeup of thermite. But like I said before, thermite can be made from aluminium and iron oxide. That's iron, aluminium and oxygen. That's present in my TV, my laptop, and if you count her collar, my cat. Does that mean they're all made of thermite? I mean, do you think these elements were not present at the World Trade Center? But no, you guys, this is thermite. Yeah, thermite. But how much are we actually talking about here? Well, the paper goes on to say that one of the samples that was given in by mass contained 0.1% of these red-grey chips. Now, I want you to think about that for a sec. 0.1% of the dust contained this unreactive nanothermite. To put that in context, 1 kilogram of dust contains 1 gram of unreacted nanothermite. And don't forget, this paper was implying that nanothermite brought down the towers. How much thermite do they think there was? Do you not think this is a kind of high percent for a material that's supposed to burn and explode? Why is there so much unreacted start material in these bloody things? And let's not forget, they found these red-grey chips in all the samples. Ugh. And the chips were only 10 to 100 microns thick. Do you really think that much could actually burn through steel? I mean, for feck's sake, I used 1.5 kilograms to try and burn through my Xbox, and it couldn't do it.
There is a published peer-reviewed paper.
It's hard to explain to people who are not in the business, but you can usually tell the awesomeness of someone's research depending on where it's published. For example, if you were to get something published in Nature, Tetrahedron, Cell, Science, you probably have some pretty awesome research. But that's not the case all the time, like with the case with Andrew Wakefield and The Lancet, but it's a good guide. The Open Chemical Physics Journal is not a respected journal, if you can even call it that. It's one of hundreds of academic journals produced by Bentham Science publishers. They claim to be peer-reviewed, and some people were skeptical, so they made fake papers to see if they'd be published. One of them sent in was claiming to be from the Centre of Research in Applied Phenology. That would be as in the measure of the human skull to determine traits about the person. And if that wasn't enough, the acronym is CRAP. But 4 months after they submitted it, they got an email saying it'd been accepted. Okay, maybe that's a bit too cryptic. So they tried again. This time they submitted a paper by SciGen, which is a program that generates random computer science research papers, including graphs, files, and citations. But it's all gibberish. When I mean gibberish, I mean it makes no sense. It's just words. I mean, look at the abstract. What does this mean? What does it mean? And it was accepted. Yeah. So you're going to say to me with a straight face that this paper was peer-reviewed?
They reported on this. It's been peer-reviewed by other scientists. It's not been disputed.
And you want to know the icing on the cake? Following the publication of Jones's paper, the Open Chemical Physics Journal editor-in-chief resigned, saying they have printed this article without my authorization. Kinda sounds like she disputes it. And she's not the only one. Lots of scientists have jumped on the bandwagon and said, shenanigans, shenanigans. So what do these other scientists think these red-grey chips are? Well, they don't know, because Dr. Jones and his cohorts, and his associates won't give the samples to others to verify their results. But that didn't stop a doctor named James who's able to get 4 samples of the World Trade Center dust. These samples were collected and stored by professionals within a month of 9/11. Analysis on these samples was performed between November 18th, 2011 and February 20th, 2012. He found the composition of all 4 samples of the dust chosen for the study was consistent with World Trade Center dust previously published back in 2002. See, that's some good science there, checking that these samples are actually legit and not just relying on people who've said they've kept this dust in their room for 6 years. James was also able to isolate these red-grey chips from the dust that matched the ones found in Jones's paper. Like the ones in Jones's paper, he put the red-grey chips in several solvents overnight and sonicated them. The solvents included methyl chloride, methyl ethyl ketone, and 2 commercial paint strippers. The energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy of James's sample matched the spectra described in Jones's paper. The grey layer contained iron and the red layer contained carbon, oxygen, aluminium, silicon, and iron. This is pretty good not only for James, but for Jones, giving his paper a bit more credit because his results were confirmed. However, the FTIR spectra of James's sample showed the red layer was consistent with the reference spectra of an epoxy resin. More analysis of the sample using backscattering electron analysis and scanning electron microscopes showed that the grey layer was actually carbon steel, nothing else. The cross-section of the red layer showed particles of iron consistent with iron oxide pigments, and plates of selenium/silicon consistent with the reference sample of the clay. But here's the kicker. James found no evidence of elemental aluminium particles. None. No elemental aluminium means no thermite or nanothermite.
Very early on, one of the explanations for the red gray chips was that it was paint.
Oh yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Wake up in the morning, live with yourself.
Oh, blimey.
Sorry, I was amused.
Sorry, what were you saying about the red chips?
Oh, the red gray chips. Early on, the first explanations were these were paint chips, off of primer, off of the girders, whatever. They actually tried to prove that, but this stuff explodes.
No, it doesn't. And if you were to repeat any of Jones's experiments using just iron oxide, I can guarantee it would look identical. But look at this guy in the picture. He obviously knows he's dealing with explosives, which is why he's not wearing any gloves, protective clothing, and he's got his face shield up.
You heat this stuff up and it explodes, okay? You don't just find this stuff anywhere. It doesn't naturally occur in buildings. If this stuff was in a building, I wouldn't go in the building, okay?
Okay, I think I'm being a bit horrible to this guy, even if he was a bit of a cheeky fecker.
And that is out of focus. Sorry, hang on. There we go,
Did
that's
you just
better.
steal this?
Sorry? No, maybe from Middlesbrough, but I'm not that much of a feed.
Anyway, that's the end of part 2. Remember, if you like what I do, you can always hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And you can also like it, which would be really nice of you. And if you want to stalk me, feel free to do that on Facebook or Twitter. I have links in the doobly-doo. Okay, bye for now, guys, and I'll see you when I see you next.